Hi, I'm Brian Lord, Senior Vice President of Premier Speakers Bureau. I'm happy to have with us here Scott Rasmussen, founder of the Rasmussen Report, but also the co-founder of ESPN. It's pretty rare to have somebody who has done both, founded two of the largest companies in the world of their kind. So, Scott, thanks for coming on and joining us.
Happy to be with you, Brian. And that story of ESPN was so long ago, I had hair on my head back then, too.
Well, that's great. Well, we one of the funny things that I get asked a lot, obviously, the reason why people bring you in to speak is to talk about current events, the economy, the political framework, what things are going there. But one of the kind of neat, hey, here's 5 minutes you can do on this, or like you're saying, sometimes it's a nice cocktail conversation. But you actually co-founded ESPN, which I think is pretty cool. So what's sort of the 5 minute short version of that?
Well, it's hard for people to even imagine what the world was like back in the 1970s. There was only one college football game on per week, and you couldn't get most sports on television. We just had the ABC Wide World of Sports that showed a smattering of events. My father and I were working for a hockey team in Hartford, Connecticut, the New England Whalers, and we couldn't get them on TV. They wouldn't bump Charlie's Angels to put on a hockey game. And we tried all kinds of experiments with closed circuit broadcasts and things. But eventually we heard about this crazy new technology called cable TV. Connecticut was very late in getting cable, so they had a pretty decent system. And we thought, well, we can put the Whalers on TV and maybe have Bristol Red Sox baseball and UConn basketball. We were pretty excited about this, and we called all the cable operators, and they all came to a meeting. And it was one of the great marketing flops of all time. We were pitching something they weren't ready for, but somebody in the meeting said, look, if you're serious about this, you got to check out the satellite. Well, we'd already taken a $9,000 cash advance on the credit card to start the company. We had to pay it back somehow, so we called RCA and we learned about the satellite. And while there's many versions or details of what happened, the key fact was we could take a signal and send it around the U.S. via satellite for less than it used to cost to send the same signal around the state of Connecticut. And that was remarkable. Now, the catch was we had to sign a 5-year, $2.6 million commitment. But since we couldn't afford anything anyhow, we just said, okay, we're interested, hold this, don't make us sign up until the last minute. We got one of those transponders. We weren't sure what to do with it. We had 90 days to start coming up with some financing. And on August 16th, 1978, I know the day well because it was my sister's 16th birthday. We decided to drive down to the Jersey Shore. She was spending the summer with my grandparents and celebrate her birthday and forget about the business. Well, of course, we got in the car, couldn't forget about the business. We got stuck in traffic in Waterbury, Connecticut. And at some point, I just got fed up and said to my father, I don't care what you do, show football all weekend, see if I care. And for the first time all morning, he didn't yell back at me. He said, that's it. Not football, but sports. So that took care of our weekends. Within the hour, we thought we'll do all sports all day, every day. We drove to the shore, blew off my sister on her birthday, and came back. And we were convinced we had an idea that would change the world. And the funniest part for us was we were afraid to show it to anybody for a long time because we thought they'd steal it. But then after about 7 or 8 broadcast companies in a row turned down the financing, we got a different view. Mm-hmm. We ended up getting funded by Getty Oil. And within a year, well, just 12 and a half months after having that argument, on September 7th, 1979, we went on the air. And in between, we had signed a contract with the NCAA. We signed the largest ad contract in cable history of the Anheuser-Busch, signed up stations. And we were all set on opening night for this grand debut. And unfortunately, the building that we were building, it was not quite complete. We didn't have the control room and things. So we had to figure out a way to get the broadcast signal out. And so we punched a hole in the back wall of our brand new building. We brought up a remote truck, ran some cables in, and during the first Sports Center ever aired on ESPN, a skunk paid us a visit, crawled through that opening in the wall. So, it's kind of a shaky start. ESPN's done pretty well since then.
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing that. Now, one of the things that's kind of funny, obviously those are two very different things, ESPN and polling. How did you make that transition from ESPN to, this polling company?
Well, making the transition took several years, but really they were the same core idea. ESPN was successful because satellite technology made it possible. It let us distribute a signal in brand new ways. Rasmussen Reports took off because the internet changed everything. I began to poll in the 90s, and the internet was brand new, began to put information on the website, and nobody had ever provided information directly to consumers before. It was always filtered through news anchors. And we found that a lot of people like to see the information for themselves and read about it. And so the genesis of the idea, or the topic may have been different, but the distribution technology was the same thing, and it let us create a network for sports junkies with my father, and now a network for political and economic data junkies online with Rasmussen Reports.
Well, Scott, thanks for doing this interview. I learned a lot, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Brian.